You're watching Grts from our studios on MDI Road. This is the news, but first, the headlines. President Jammeh urges Muslims to reflect on the teachings of Islam and inculcate the act of caring for one another as the Ummah celebrates the feast of Eid al-Adha. Anti-tobacco campaigners in the Gambia amplify calls for tougher measures against the importation of tobacco products. Tense and unstable protesters in Hong Kong withdrew from talks with the government, blaming the police for not doing enough to protect them. And Turkey says it won't let Syrian town of Kobani fall. This as ISIS militants force thousands of residents to flee with heavy bombardments. These and other stories coming ahead this half hour. I am Tenen Jite. The President, His Excellency Professor Alhaji Dr. Yahya Ejiji Jammeh Babili Mansa, has urged Muslims to remember victims suffering due to Ebola outbreak and those struggling to come to terms with raging conflicts. The Gambian leader made these remarks during a televised statement on the eve of the Muslim Feast of Tobaski. Here is an excerpt from the head of state's message.
As we celebrate Eid al-Adha this year, we witness Muslims the world over being confronted with one crisis or another in all walks of life. From the outbreak of the dreadful, deadly Ebola crisis in West Africa to the senseless brutality of wars and violence unleashed on innocent people in various parts of the world. We should remember the victims of these crises in our prayers, so that the Almighty Allah may bring relief and solace to all those in need and protect those who have been spared the evil and brutality of others or the tragic afflictions of nature. Fellow Gambians, the Feast of Eid al-Adha is not only a moment for merrymaking with family and friends, but also one of deep introspection, self-searching, and indeed also a moment for benevolence and beneficence to one another, especially the less fortunate. Let us remember that caring for one another or being good to others is not only for these moments of religious festivities and celebrations, but it should be part of the everyday life of every Muslim. In other words, being good to others should not only be occasional or seasonal, but be an integral part of the personality of the faithful.
President Jammeh there addressing the nation in observance of the Muslim feast of Eid al-Adha. Some financially challenged Muslims, most of them residents of Sukuta, Medina, Tuesday benefited from the distribution of cattle numbering 50 in respect of the feast of Eid al-Adha, locally called Tobaski. Lee Mendy of our newsroom picks up the rest of that story.
Tobaski is an honor, and Muslims in the country, as in other parts of the world, are on the usual Eid shopping, which includes acquiring a ram, a ritual requirement for the feast. And as many struggle to meet the marketing cost for a ram due to excessive demand, others in Sukuta Medina in Kombonot count themselves lucky for the great blessing that suddenly descended on them. Mohamed Jabi, the principal of Brufut Upper Basic School, made available to them 50 cattle for the feast.
We'll be having, like, for example, 2 will be going to Nyanija, Caravan Stoke to Nyanija. 2 is already gone to Kamamudu. The orders will be distributed across the country.
Jabi said the distribution criterion was simple. The animals are going out to Muslims who, in one way or the other, cannot afford a ram for the Tobaski. The ratio is 7 households per cattle.
What we did was that when we realized that last year we did only 6, and we are expecting that at least this year we may be having more than that. Our chairperson, Faisal Saman in London, asked me and said, can you start gathering applications? And then we have been talking to people around So they submitted their applications, and then we screened the applications, and these are the people that are benefiting today.
Since Jabi alone couldn't have made it possible, the question now is, who must have been the Good Samaritan behind him?
So who is behind this? Khadijam Foundation in London is supporting our center in the Gambia and also in Kenya. We come to realize that in Kenya, at least all the time, they are doing 250, 200. This time we appeal to them at least so that Gambia also can have something starting this year. They are starting 50 this year, but then there is an organization called Doctors Worldwide Turkey. They're the ones who gave the money to our organization, and we are just implementing it. So it's been sponsored by Doctors Worldwide in Turkey, particularly in Turkey. They're the ones who are doing the sponsorship.
Short for words to thank philanthropist Jabi, Ismail Abe, the Imam of Sukuta, said he couldn't remember in his lifetime witnessing such a show of generosity, but again said he wasn't surprised knowing the kind of man Jabi is. Imam Bey further described Jabi as a true son of the land and a custodian of the values of Islam. Mama Sonko is a beneficiary of Jabi's benevolence. A widow with many throats to feed, there was no money for Tobaskiram. Mama referred to Jabi as a reservoir of blessing to the helpless whose intervention is keeping her daughter in school. Mama's daughter, who is now in grade 12, would have fallen out of school some 3 years ago for school fees. Abulai Dabo is another beneficiary. Jabi's gift, he said, came at a time he was ruminating on the Tobaskiram, for the finances were equally not there to buy one. I am going home with a cool head, he said. Sukuta Medina is a new settlement with 60 compounds, but Mr. Jabi on regular intervals reaches out to every household with gifts ranging from bags of rice, salt, soap, and cooking oil. Aissatou Aliou Keita, a neighbor, told Grts. But Mr. Jabi and partners are not only into Tobaski gifts in the Smiling Coast. They are also running a number of projects, but outstanding among them is the multi-million-dollar Arabic school project under construction in Medina Ring in the West Coast region. When completed, the scheme is expected to offer free education and free meals to students.
Presently, I can tell you, we have a madrasa in Sukuta. We have the other madrasa also in Kamamudu. We have one also in Kerwan Stokoto Nyanija. But the biggest one, that is the one that is under construction in Mandinaring. Mandinaring is a very, very, very big center. And we are planning, with the help of Allah, we'll be having from nursery school up to a college level. And we are working towards that.
In bilingual or in Arabic?
It will be in Arabic, it will be bilingual, it will be Arabic, English, and even other languages as well.
Inside this mosque, prayers were offered to Mr. Jabi. May he live long, be blessed, and remain a blessing were the quotations that fill the air. Louis Mendy, Grts.
Well, speaking of Tobaski, days or even hours before the feast, tailors are usually locked in a last-minute push to finish the hundreds of fabric brought to them by customers eager to acquire the latest African fashion designs on offer. Grts Momodu visited our tailoring outfit in Talending to gauge the mood amongst tailors and customers.
During this time, as they struggle to meet the demands of their often impatient clientele, the bulk of them women. But for tailors like Yunus Asise of Talending, it is both a challenge as it is an opportunity. The sheer number of customers eager to acquire the latest traditional fashions means Yunus and his retinue of apprentices have to work around the clock to make the most out of this rainfall, which comes once in a year. And with the steady supply of electricity from Nawek, Yunus and his type are assured of the necessary ingredient to enable them complete the hundreds of fabrics they have already taken in. With barely 24 hours before the feast, some clients are coming to collect their dresses. Suadu Nyasi traveled all the way from Brikama to her favorite tailoring shop. For her, it is worth the pains as her dress in its final stages. Mariama saw of